Hello, it is Danielle again with Jensen. It's going to be uploaded right after the other video, which you should all watch as well. We're going to do a little GitLab.com. We'll call it a teardown. We're going to explore what's going on in the upper right-hand corner a bit more. And Jensen's here with me to talk about the CTAs that he's thinking about and cares about most to help me understand more about what's going on up there.
All right. I'll share my screen. Okay, so if I look at these CTAs, mostly on the right-hand side here, first of all, I think there's a lot, right? The most important ones that I see here are install GitLab, get free trial, and register. Those three they speak to three different things. One is installing GitLab is clearly a call to action for self-hosted to get started on your user journey, creating your self-hosted instance. Get free trial is sort of a replacement in my mind for get started for free, and register is essentially saying the same thing, get started for free. So these two are basically the same CTA, but we call it two different things. If I put myself in the shoes of a developer, I have heard of GitLab because a company that I know is using the tool set, or I know this awesome robust CI tool is you can use in GitLab or whatever, but I'm not really super familiar. I just know that it's sort of like GitHub and that I can use it like GitHub. When I come to this site and I see everything related to a trial, that's really confusing. Because as a developer, I want to come in and kick the tires and test the application and maybe use it like I would use GitHub for, setting up my web app or my business or whatever. And I need that to be free for some extended period of time, because it might take me a year or more to build this application. And GitLab is it's the first thing that I'm exploring. And so when I see get free trial, I'm really put off because I don't want to try this for 30 days. I want to use a freemium product for an extended period of time until my business is up and running, or until my web app is up and running. And so when I see that, I'm just confused. And just so
Can I ask you a
speaking,
question just before we
sure.
keep going? So you've said a few times as a developer, but what I'd be really curious about is, what if you're not a developer? Like, I'm wondering if outside of the developer world, there's other people who might sign up that were like free trials are more normal to them. Like, can you speak at all to that perspective?
Yeah, that's a great point. I think that here's the journey in my mind of a person who signs up for GitLab, right? Firstly, let's say from the perspective of like a company evaluating a tool, an already established company, maybe an R&D department or something like that, looking for a tool to start with, and they're exploring. That is not going to be an executive. It might be a VP who makes the final purchasing decision, but it's going to come from a set of recommendations from technical folks, right? And so these technical folks are exploring the product in a way that allows them to evaluate it and send their recommendations to an executive team. I think that in that case, a trial experience is much more suited to like to that type of acquisition. But the problem with that is that, one, you're constraining that team to a short period of time, even if that's like just a perception, right? That they have 30 days to try this out. And so they may come to this site and say, well, we're just sort of exploring what's available, what's out there. we're not ready to sign up for this yet because we'll need longer than 30 days. And so they come to this site and they see that and they're sort of put off by it. Now, the reason why I know this is we did a ton of user interviews on people who evaluate the product, and what you see is like basically they get a team of people together, and that might be a developer, security analyst, DevOps person, like people who own different parts of the DevOps lifecycle. They get them all together. They start their gold trial. They all go explore different parts of the application, and then they come back together and make a recommendation for purchasing that. If we're sort of putting people off of trying GitLab to begin with because we're creating this like limitation in people's mind, I think that's not good. The other piece is like the free trial is very specific to companies, right? Not to developers. So if our target is to bring on companies or like already established companies, that's fine. But if you're after like smaller startups or whatever, or just developer audience, it's not going to be as effective at getting traction as a more robust, like a more clear communication that you can use GitLab for free.
Right. So I can totally understand why we don't want to turn people off. I mean, obviously we just want them to get started because we have a good product. So we know if we can get people to start using our product and actually seeing the value, that like we have a really good shot of converting them, right? So I can totally imagine that part of this is just, we don't want to turn you off before you even begin. But what I am a little worried about is like, what if I get here and I'm just like, okay, I see 3 different ways to kind of begin. I don't know anything about what's behind each of these buttons. This one button's orange, so it sort of feels like it's the one screaming at me to be clicked right now. I've noticed that when you click Get Free Trial, do you mind clicking it for me just so people can see what's behind it? I've noticed that this page also has another set of decisions that you have to make, like 2 buttons equally kind of weighted here. And then I'm thinking they might be like, well, crap, I picked the wrong thing. Like now I have to make another decision. We can obviously make buttons say anything we want. Have we thought about maybe just having a single get started button that like kind of pushes that decision down a bit, like rather than having 3 calls to action on the very front page? Because it seems like that's kind of what this is trying to do. So I'm just wondering if you can fill me in on like the history, because it seems like we're going to have to get to some point of conviction of like what's the desired path.
Yeah, I agree. And so one, I think that really this install GitLab and this free trial option where you're signing up for a self-managed instance, they're the same thing. The only difference is that we ask you to sign up for a customers.gitlab.com account here, and then sort of say, all right, your journey is done. Here's your trial key. But we've done nothing to guide the user through actually downloading or making, as you said, like the right decision. And so I don't think that choosing between your 2 options is necessarily a bad thing, because we're just sort of expanding, like here's our offering, you choose the best thing that's right for you. It does become a bad thing when you already have this massive decision at the outset, right? Like you have register, get free trial, install GitLab. Which one of these am I going to choose? I choose get free trial. Now I have another choice. Like I have to educate myself even more on GitLab's offering. And then I'm just sort of left to my own devices to actually come back here and press install GitLab and follow these directions once I sign up for a trial. What has the trial given me if it hasn't shown me, what to do and how to configure, how to get started? It's just giving me a trial key for something that I don't actually have yet. And so like the decision tree is much bigger when you start with 3 options. But I think that if we were to focus this, let's just say it was get started for free, whether that, trial aside, get started for free, and then you have these two options to choose from, a managed experience or you manage it yourself, then that walkthrough, that guiding the customer through the right decision becomes a lot easier and a lot like more straightforward.
Right, because after you click on, for example, startyourgitlab.com free trial, you still actually have 2 more pages of forms to fill out with buttons at the end of each one. Like, it's just a very long funnel. It seems like the odds you're going to make it to the other side today just to do whatever you want to do. Like, you might even pick the wrong thing. That might be fine. But we have a great product hiding behind like so many layers of stuff.
A lot of layers and very little guidance. We leave it up to you to, like, we get you through this trial funnel and then leave it up to you to actually figure out how to use the product. Whereas it should sort of be the opposite. Like, getting them to use the product should be central, because using the product is what converts folks.
I agree.
And the other thing that I'll mention is, like, if we just talk about like try GitLab for free, everyone's assuming that GitLab is a freemium product, right? Because most of the people who sign up use it that way, just in terms of the number of users by count, right? And also, if you directly compare it with GitHub, that's how most people use GitHub. So if I come here and I see try GitLab for free on the hero image, and I click on this, and then for the first time, it's mentioning that I only have a limited amount of time to try it for 30 days. This is really confusing. This is like really confusing. Well, like, you told me I could try it for free, and now you're telling me 30 days. Seems like like there's a lack of clarity to the different CTAs here.
So stepping back for a little bit to talk about goals, because I think that's the key thing. Like, if we want to make a decision here, we'll have to tie it to our goals. I have a feeling the free for 30 days is because we're trying to create pressure in the sales process to like make a decision, which from a growing IACV perspective makes sense. But it only works if these people are, going to be responsive to pressure. Like, if they're only ever planning to pay us $9 a month, then it may not really matter. Like, we're probably more likely to win on product features. But if it's actually like a mid-market or large MQL, like a big account, a company, then I think the time pressure is really valuable, because it's like, otherwise they can just go on and, discuss forever and not make a decision. So it does really seem like it's very persona driven to some extent. Like, who you are would kind of influence. Like, if I could magically know who you are when you land on our website, I would give you a different call to action based on who you are. Would you agree with that?
To some extent, yes, and to some extent, no. So just to taking a step back for a second, you've sort of justified why we're adding the free trial and saying like, we want to create pressure, but you're sacrificing total acquisition to create that pressure, right? Like, there's going to be less people who sign up because you're applying pressure potentially too early.
Right.
And so in terms of like overall acquisition numbers, you're losing people from signing up, and really only pushing the people who are willing to sign up for this limited amount of time. And that may be, it may be better to bring them into the product. What I think is, you can accomplish this inside the product. You can accomplish the applying the pressure inside the product, rather than doing it in the marketing site, so that, like, we wouldn't lose out on the acquisition source. We would get that user, and we'd have the ability to bring them back in or educate them on features or whatever, and then create this pressure inside the product.
Okay, so like a little inside baseball here is, we've got 2 different goals, right? So we've got these MQL goals in the marketing team. We've got SMB, mid-market, and large MQL targets, both inbound and paid. And then we've got on your team a conversion goal, which is like, we want to maximize the conversion rate. Both are good goals, but when you put them together, they do create some like conflicting objectives, but they don't have to because of what you just said, which is that we can achieve some of these goals inside the product. And it might come down to a question of like, where does someone become an MQL, right? So like right now we have them fill out a form. They tell us some things based on the firmographic data, like how big their company is. We decide they're whatever kind of lead they are. So all of the incentives in marketing are around pushing people to like fill out this form. The question that might be the fun question for you and me is that the right spot to MQL someone? Like this kind of is in the realm of lead scoring too. It's like, it's only so important to have MQLs. Like if I generate a bunch of mid-market MQLs, but they all have a very low score because of their buying intent not being there, it doesn't really matter because we don't get the pipeline that we need. So anyway, what I think you're raising for me is like, maybe we need to do something to better line up our goals so that we don't end up at cross purposes. Because I wonder if that's sort of what's causing this.
It could be, but I don't necessarily think our goals are misaligned. And
Okay.
the reason why I say that is um, because signing up for a trial is a super it's a great predictor of success, of like conversion, right?
Mm-hmm.
Conversion goes up dramatically for a user who signs up for a trial versus is just a regular free user. And it's like these high intention actions where we want them to sign up for a trial inside the product, and you're also getting sort of filtering down those leads. I think what's happening here is you have these marketing qualified leads that are coming in from this acquisition source, and there's a massive number of them, but they're just going through the path that we've pushed them through. They don't actually have high intention.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if you were to put this in the product, we know their intention is high because they've gone in the product, they've potentially started using it, right? And then they signed up for a trial, right? It's the quality of the lead goes up significantly, and also the potential that user upgrades or converts goes up also. So like where we want to maximize conversion, getting them to sign up for a trial is a huge way to do that. It's like a really amazing thing. One is like, getting them to use the product in some way, and then two is getting them to sign up for a trial. Those are our biggest levers to pull.
Okay, so I agree with you, and I want to connect that back to something from earlier, which is we've got this also install GitLab and sign up now experience, like outside of the trial flow. And I'm just trying to figure out like, well, how does that connect to what we just said? Because like, how would we feel if we had to make this the page everybody went through? Is that terrible? I wish we could make a data-driven argument for just any particular option, but like, what would be what's our best bet if we could only have one? I guess I'm so curious, like, what's the back of the envelope on that?
You mean like what's the best bet on if we only had one?
If we wanted to hit our IACV goal and we can only have one call to action instead of 3, which one has like the highest probability of getting us where we want to go? I'm not saying we're going to execute that. I more just want to understand so I can like stack rank and like their impact in my mind.
Yeah, I think that getting them to register for the product, whether that's so, this is the way that I would think about this. They're signing up for free. They're signing up for the freemium product, but they need to choose between doing it on self-hosted or .com. So either way is fine. Like we just basically say, sign up for or register for the product, whether that's for .com or for self-hosted. That would be the CTA. So it's kind of like a tree. Like they come in to sign up for free, and then we split them into the best decision for them.
So is the 30 days limitation really the thing that is the most problematic here? Like literally, if we just took off the 30-day limitation, it seems like what you just described is exactly what that little split page with the 2 options does. It's just that time constraint feels like the thing that's really rubbing the wrong way.
Yeah, it is. It's also like, what does the user get out of signing up for a trial? Like what have we given them? We haven't really given them something that they've asked for. So
Mm.
you know, the free trial, it's a great tool and it's a great thing for our users. It's just that as the primary CTA, we haven't given them what they've asked for. They've asked to be introduced to the product by coming to this page, and they want to learn more about it. And a lot of users do that just by simply signing up and testing it.
Hmm.
And the free trial feels like a second step, not a first step. We're treating it like a first step.
But I'm
Um,
confused. Like with most SaaS products, like the free trial as a first step is pretty typical.
it's typical of products who offer only a 30-day trial, but not typical for freemium products.
I see. So
And so
how was the
this is
decision
sort of
taken?
confusing.
Yeah, no, I agree, but I'm kind of curious. How was the decision taken, or how was it made to add this 30-day window when we already had a freemium experience?
I'm not entirely sure. I think you'd have to ask the marketing group about that. My assumption is that we have the primary CTA on here used to be to install your GitLab instance,
Hmm.
and we sort of replaced that with uh, the free trial. And I think a lot of that was because we really lack um, the data that we need to like help users become or help users convert.
Hmm.
And so the free trial gives us that information.
Yeah, that makes sense. This is really helpful. Yeah, I'm still unearthing some of the history. By the way, none of these questions are judgments of the decisions. Like people watching this probably made these decisions. Like, I don't know what's right and what's wrong. All I know is there's a lot of things we're asking the user to do here, and we probably can't ask for quite as many decisions if we want to guide them to like a good outcome. So I just want to learn about kind of some ideal visions. Like, I guess my question to you is how much of this needs to get solved on the marketing site versus how much of this can we start to address with more like in product messaging and some of the email and other things we might do kind of post sign up? Like what's your vision for like an ideal journey?
Yeah, sure. My vision for an ideal journey is like all of this information that we're gathering at the free trial step is critical to run the business. I totally understand that. But every time we collect a bit of information from a user, we should be giving them something in return. And so when I think about that in the product, we ask the question of like, what is your role? And we ask that question because we want to use that information to help communicate to that user in the best possible way, help onboard them based off of what their role is, right? And it's things like that where I think like this should be a part of the journey. If we
Mhm.
need this information about getting a trial, it should be sort of like where we're gathering that progressively and qualifying the user progressively to understand like
Mhm.
who they are, but also giving them something in return for that. For you know, for example, I have an issue that is um, to give, and this is just an idea at the moment, so you know, don't take this too seriously, but just
No, I'll just
as an
listen.
example. I have an issue that is basically stating that uh, for users that are large enough and for users that we consider like high intention qualified leads, we should give them support during their 30-day trial,
Yeah.
give them access to support. And what that basically proposes is like when they go to sign up for a trial, we ask them a minimum number of questions, but if they say they're large enough, we say, would you like access to support during your trial? If they say yes, we ask them more questions, right? Because they're sort of getting something in return for the additional information that they're
Well,
giving
to
us.
reinforce what you just said too, if we say to them, you told us your role is blah at a company like blah, and people like you normally end up buying this, which includes support. So we want to give you support. Like then it's even better for them because they're like, oh, you didn't just try to get another form field for me, right? I think that's what you're
Right.
saying is you want it to have almost a call and response dynamic, right? Where they know why we
Exactly.
asked.
Yeah, and then also tell them why we're asking that
Mhm.
information, right? Like we're asking for your role because we use it to try to understand how best to onboard you.
Yep. I like that a lot. And I also feel like there are a lot of form fields to fill out. So even getting that first email, and if it said like, hey, you told us some things and here's what we recommend, here's some content, like making you feel like you've been like targeted in some more personal way. Is this about personalization too, in your opinion?
I think personalization helps you give value back to the user.
Mhm.
So in some ways, yes. I mean, not like overly personalized, but personalized in a way that like they feel like they've given us information that we used to help
Yep.
them.
Yep. Do you think a lot of people just don't convert to the right like tier of product because we don't tell them what to do?
I think that's part of it. I also think it's not super apparent what they're missing out on, and so that's especially like by persona. Like for example, a product manager might come in and value something very differently than a developer, but we sort of treat everyone like a developer,
Hmm. Yeah.
and try to push them to upload their code when a product manager is probably just looking to see if like he can effectively run a team,
Yeah.
he or she.
Yeah.
Um,
I had this experience recently, created a new GitLab account for a COVID project I was working on. And we were like, we don't even have code yet, actually. We're just like figuring out the project. And I knew like, oh gosh, if we start with Google Docs instead of epics and issues, this is going to be a huge amount of work for me later. I'm just going to start, in the right place. It seems like that's a great thing to start with, using it as kind of like, it was basically a handbook for our team until we actually had code to start writing. Yeah, I'm really curious. Like, so if I signed up, say I sign up with an apple.com email address, um, and I'm just an individual person with that email, do we even connect them to their larger account? Or do we, like, if you were like an individual employee who's like, I just started a new project at Apple and I love using GitLab. Maybe I just joined this company and I don't even know that I have a GitLab account. Like, do we connect the dots?
we do. No, not. The answer is no, we do not.
Okay. Well, that's an interesting one for me to go learn more about. Well, this has been super fun, Jensen. I could ask you questions forever, obviously, but I should probably stop. And thank you.
Thank you.